think there will be some limitations to size. But there are some exceptions. I mean, if you look at companies like the YTL group, who obviously have done quite well, they do, they have a mix. They have professionals and they have family members working. Yeah. But I think the more successful companies will have to employ professionals. There's just no way around that. And then when you do that, you have to delegate down. So even managers who have difficulty delegating will also find that their prospects for career progression will be limited. I mean, a lot of people get promoted based on technical ability. You're a good salesman or saleswoman, you hit your targets every year, then one day you become vice president of sales. And then you find out you've got to manage a staff force of 30 salespeople. And all you know is how to sell. You don't know how to manage. That's another problem. So, so in promoting people upwards, companies must also make sure that they have the necessary skills to manage people. Like I said earlier, as you move up, your job requirement is not so much the technical part, but actually the human management part. And if this in this example, if that sales, the vice president sales is still interested in only doing sales, and he doesn't want to delegate that job to his staff, then he's not going to have enough time to manage his people. So he's going to screw that part of his job, right? And he's probably not going to move further up from there. Okay, you must always have confidence in your abilities. I mean, probably easier said than done. But a lot of people have problems because they are afraid that their subordinates become better than them, and then they're afraid that they will lose their job. Yeah? There's nothing wrong with your subordinates being better than you. In fact, that's good, because then they can help you do a better job. Yeah? And these people should be encouraged to do even better. Now the problem for you, if you're the boss, is that what happens to you then eventually? Then this person needs to move up, right? Because if that person doesn't get your job, then chances are he or she will leave. Yeah? No, I suppose there's no simple answer. I mean, you then have to be better than your boss. I mean, that's just a natural evolution of things. Yeah? Because people will stay on until they hit the ceiling, and then if they can't move up anymore, then they will go. Yeah? You can't. And for organizations like us at Bursa Malaysia, we have that kind of problem because we are only 600 people, and you can only have a certain number of bosses at the top. So when people come up and if there are no spaces, then they will eventually leave. Either you remove you make the box available, or you risk losing the people. But for us, it's a little bit different because we have a lot of specialists. Yeah? Because our job, our work requires a lot of specialists. We have people who do regulations. They tend to be people from the legal profession and or from the accounting profession. So and a lot of them enjoy working in the exchange because we only have one exchange in the country. Yeah? That's good and bad because you can't get the same work anywhere else. So some people who want to work in the exchange are happy to stay on. But we also become a poaching ground for banks and other businesses because they need people who know the industry, and our people tend to be quite familiar with that. So in some respects, I suppose that's part of the national service that we provide. Ready flow of employees, the production line. But that's good. Then it gives other people opportunities to join us. Okay, sorry, there was another question. Sorry.
Yes, we go back to Renong again.
Yeah.
You had a dynamic, what you call CEO in Renong. They picked the cream of the, what do you call, the society. They had all the contract they wanted from the government.
Yeah.
What happened?
They overextended. The question was, why did Renong what happened to Renong? Because they had everything, yeah? People, contracts. They overextended. So basically they took on too many projects. I think the last project they took on was the LRT project. Yeah. And a lot of it was funded. No, they had a lot of good projects, but the funding they obtained was more or less short term, whereas the projects were long term. So then, because of the crisis, then interest rates went up, so it became a cash flow problem. So that's why the government had to intervene, and Khazanah eventually bought over Renong. Yeah. Thanks. And yeah, so it's not enough just to get contracts and projects. You have to make sure that your income and your expenses are matched. Yeah? Because if your income is heavy in the first 5 years, but if your expenses are heavy in the first 5 years, but your income is coming after year 10, then you're going to have cash flow problems, and that's basically what happened to them. And if you think Iskandar, I noticed one of your speakers earlier was from Iskandar region. Iskandar was actually a Renong project. Those days it used to be called Nusajaya, under a company called ProLink. So Halim Saad had all this. He even had a master plan. Now, I think one of the things that didn't happen was, just before the crisis, he had offers from Singapore parties to buy and all that, but he was holding off for a better price. But then the crisis came, and the rest of it is history. So sometimes entrepreneurs also have opportunities to deleverage, de-gear, but it's a question of timing. If the crisis hadn't happened, he would still probably be in charge of Renong now, and Renong would be very successful, and Iskandar would be his. So it's funny how things turn out. Yes.
Sir, we are doing plantations, but what are we doing to get people like Wilma and Golden to move from Singapore exchange to Malaysia? I mean, it's quite weird that they don't have any plantations in Singapore, obviously, but Wilma and Golden is in Singapore. So what are we doing to make Bursa more attractive for these people to move from Singapore to Bursa?
Okay. Yeah, it looks very. It doesn't make sense that they should be listed in Singapore. But the reality is that in the case of Wilma, I think there is. They're part of the Kwok family, and we notice there is a trend for that group to be moving out of Malaysia, which is unfortunate to me. Robert Kwok has been one of the most, probably is the most successful Malaysian entrepreneur, the richest man in Asia, right? But for some reason he appears to be selling out of the country, which is not a good development. But in the case of so the issue now is whether the decision is motivated by personal things, or whether it's from a valuation perspective. Because if you follow logic, they should have listed here. But if there are other reasons behind it, then
what about Golden then?
Golden Agri is Indonesian, right? Okay, the reality of Indonesian businesses is that it's off the record, right? A lot of the wealthy Indonesians keep their money in Singapore.